Someone dropped a doll with its head cut off under my front door. In 7 days, I'm supposed to sit in a lawyer's office and sign my will, and only 5 people on this planet know that. Me, my lawyer, and my 4 children. So tell me, when your own blood leaves you a message like that, what are you supposed to do? Before you answer, read this to the end. Then tell me who you think did it, and whether the way I got my revenge makes me a monster or just a man trying to stay alive. Your judgment might be the only honest one I ever get. My name is Robert Hayes. I am 72 years old, a retired electrician from Ohio, widower for 7 years, father of 4, grandfather of 8. I live alone in the same one-story house where my wife Linda and I raised our kids, the same house my children now circle like planes waiting to land, some out of love, some out of duty, and some, I've come to realize, out of calculation. And in 1 week, I'm supposed to finalize my will and decide exactly which of them will profit when I die. It began on a Tuesday night, just after 11. The wind was pushing at the maple tree in my front yard, making the branches scrape the siding in long, slow strokes. That sound always kept Linda awake. I used to joke that the tree was trying to get in. That night, I had just turned off the TV and shuffled down the hallway, turning off lights, feeling my knees complain the way they do now when the weather changes. I was halfway to my bedroom when I heard it. 3 quick, delicate taps on the front door. Not a real knock, not the heavy, I need something knock, but a light, almost playful tapping, like fingers drumming on a table. Tap, tap, tap. I stopped. At my age, you learn to listen carefully to every sound in your house, because once your body starts failing you, the house is all you have left to feel in control of. I checked the microwave clock, 11:07 p.m., and went to the entryway. I flipped on the porch light and looked through the peephole. Nothing. No neighbor, no kid, just my empty porch, the rail, and the dark strip of front walk, silvering in the weak light. I unlatched the chain but kept the door mostly closed as I opened it. The cold air slid in around my bare ankles. The porch light hummed overhead. My knees cracked when I bent down to see if someone had left a package. At first I thought it was a wad of rags or someone's lost stuffed toy. Then I saw the plastic fingers. It was a doll. Not a baby doll, but the kind made to look like a little girl. Just under 2 feet long, in a ragged pink dress that had once been new. The arms and legs were splayed in an unnatural angle like it had been tossed, not gently laid down. And its head was gone. The head lay 3 inches away, face up. Plastic blonde hair matted and dirty, painted blue eyes staring at the porch ceiling. The neck on the head and the neck on the body were ragged white circles where the plastic had been cut, not broken. Someone had taken real effort to slice that thing apart. Around the neck, a piece of red yarn was tied like a tiny noose. On the doll's chest, taped over the stained pink dress, was a strip of masking tape. On the tape, written in thick black marker and crooked block letters, were 3 words: "Time is up." It is strange the way fear moves at my age. When you are young, it hits you fast. Spike of adrenaline, racing heart, ready to punch or run. When you are 72, fear moves heavier, slower. It settles in your chest and your throat. It makes you feel every second you have already lived and every second you might not get. At first I told myself it had to be some neighborhood kid's cruel idea of a joke. Halloween was long gone, but kids do stupid things all year. Then my eyes drifted up to the Ring doorbell my youngest daughter Ashley made me install last Christmas. The small blue ring that shows it's powered and recording was dark. I shut the door, locked the deadbolt, and went to the small desk in the hallway where I keep the router and the little monitor for the camera. I opened the app on my phone. Device offline. I tried again. Same thing. Then I scrolled through the recordings. The last clip was from 6:12 p.m. That was me taking out the garbage. Nothing after that. My hands started to shake. I put on my coat and stepped back outside with a flashlight. The cold bit into my cheeks. The front of the house looked the same as always. My cracked driveway, the dead plants in the ceramic pot Linda had loved, the porch step I keep meaning to fix. I followed the thin wire from the doorbell along the siding to the corner of the house. The cable there should have ducked inside a small gray junction box. Instead, two ends dangled loose, cut clean through, not frayed, not chewed. Whoever did it used a blade and knew exactly where to cut so the camera would stop recording before they stepped into its field of view. That was the moment it stopped being a prank. Because there are only 5 people who know I have an appointment with my lawyer, Henry Collins, next week to sign my will. Henry, myself, and my 4 children, Mark, Denise, Thomas, and Ashley. Someone wanted me to see that doll, with that message, right before I go to decide who gets what when I die. Someone who did not want to be recorded doing it. I called the non-emergency police line. An officer came out. A young man, maybe 25, maybe less, with a polite stare and a notepad. He stood on my porch and listened while I described what I'd found. He looked at the doll in the plastic bag he'd brought and tried not to roll his eyes. "Probably some kids messing around, Mr. Hayes," he said. "We've had a couple calls about property damage over on Maple." "Kids don't cut doorbell wires in the exact spot to kill the camera," I said. "And teenagers don't know I have a will appointment on Monday." He shifted, uncomfortable. "You think this is about that?" "I think someone wanted me scared," I said. "Scared enough to do what they want." He took a report, gave me a card, told me to call if anything else happened. "We'll keep an eye on the neighborhood," he said. Then he drove off, leaving me standing alone on the porch with my bagged doll and cut cable. I took the doll's head inside with me and set it on the small table in the hallway where we used to keep Linda's keys and the kids' permission slips. The blue eyes stared at the ceiling. The smile on its lips was that fixed, cheap grin they paint on toys to make them look friendly. In the dim light, it looked like a dead child. I did not sleep that night. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to every creak of the house. I kept thinking of other messages you get when you are old. The helpful comments about assisted living. The practical questions about whether you have power of attorney in place. The pamphlet someone leaves in your mailbox about planning for incapacity. And now, a decapitated doll that told me my time was up. The worst part was knowing this. I could not honestly, immediately rule out any of my children. Mark is my oldest at 48. Real estate agent. He dresses sharp, drives leased cars, talks big. He has that smooth salesman smile that works on a lot of people. Twice divorced, always on the verge of a big closing that never quite appears. The type to say, "We're killing it this quarter," and then ask to borrow money for his electric bill. Denise is 46. She works in human resources for a logistics company and treats every situation like a personnel issue. She has a notebook for everything, writes down every date and every sentence. She never forgets a slight and never lets go of a plan once she sinks her teeth into it. She married Greg, an overconfident man who always seems to be chewing gum and calculating who in the room is worth his time. Tom, is 43. He did 2 tours in the Army as a mechanic, came home, and opened an auto repair shop with a friend. The shop has had more bad years than good ones, and he's always one broken lift away from disaster. But when something breaks in my house, Tom is the one who shows up with tools, not a brochure. Ashley is 35, my youngest. She teaches 4th grade, the kind of teacher kids actually remember. She's the one who calls me just to talk, who brings casseroles, because you probably ate soup from a can again, Dad. She married Ethan, a quiet IT guy who is always checking whether the kids have enough sunscreen on. On paper, they are 4 decent American adults. But I know them beyond the paper. I know their debts, their resentments, their expectations, and I know they all understand one thing. I am not poor. I spent 46 years as an electrician, 20 of those running my own small company. I have this house paid off. 3 small rental properties. A modest investment account Linda and I built instead of taking vacations we could not afford. A pension, Social Security, savings. It is not movie money, but it is enough to change someone's life. 6 months ago, I did what every responsible old man is supposed to do. I called my kids together at a roadside restaurant to talk about my will. I thought it would bring us closer. Instead, it showed me something ugly. The place was a diner off the highway, one Linda liked years ago because they had real mashed potatoes. I booked the corner booth. Mark arrived late, phone glued to his ear, waving his free hand as if there was an invisible client in front of him. Denise came with a legal pad already open, pen in hand. Tom slid in quietly, smelling of oil and coffee. Ashley sat closest to me and immediately asked if I was feeling all right. "So," I said, after the waitress poured coffee, "I have an appointment with Henry Collins next month. We're going to put everything in writing. I wanted to talk about it now, together. I don't want any surprises later." "Equal shares?" Mark asked, just like that. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Do you need help?" Just straight to the numbers. "Yes," I said. "Equal shares of whatever's left. The house, rentals, savings, truck, tools, you'll all be taken care of." "Good," Denise said, jotting something down. "It's better if everyone hears that now. Less chance of misunderstandings." Tom stared at his coffee. "I don't care about the money, Dad," he said. "I just want to make sure you're not alone if something happens." Ashley squeezed my hand under the table. "You're scaring me talking like this," she said. "You're not going anywhere for a long time, right?" I smiled and told them not to worry, but I saw the way Mark's eyes lit up when I mentioned I wasn't planning to sell the house. I saw the way Denise's pen pressed harder into the page when I said Henry's name. Maybe if it had stopped there, we would not be where we are now. The morning after the doll appeared, I made myself coffee I could not taste. The house felt different. Every shadow was a person standing still. I decided to call each of my children over the next few days, not to accuse, just to see. Mark came first that afternoon because Mark always comes first if he thinks there is an angle. He walked in talking. "Dad, you okay? You sounded weird on the phone. You're not sick, are you? Because Monday we can reschedule. We can even do all this will stuff digitally now. DocuSign, boom, done." He stopped when he saw the doll's head on the hallway table. "What the heck is that?" he said, wrinkling his nose. "That," I said, "was under my front door last night." I watched his face. There was surprise, some disgust. But it was the surprise you have when someone tells you it's snowing in April, not horror of a guilty man seeing his own act thrown back at him. His eyes flicked to the dead doorbell, then back to me. "You call the cops?" he asked. I did. "What did they say?" "They think it's a prank," I said. "I think someone's trying to send me a message about my will." His gaze sharpened. "Dad," he said, dropping his voice into his salesman's reassuring register, "you know I've been thinking a lot about that appointment. You shouldn't have to deal with complex legal stuff alone at your age. You know how many stories I hear about old folks being scammed? You could just sign one paper and lose half your assets." "I trust Henry," I said. "He's been my lawyer for 20 years. "I'm not saying he's a crook," Mark said quickly. "I'm saying you need another set of eyes. Let me sit in, or better yet, let's set up a financial power of attorney now. You put me on it. Let me manage things while you're still around so we can avoid mistakes. That way this kind of freaky nonsense," he gestured at the doll, "doesn't get to you." "You think I can't handle my own decisions?" I asked. He smiled. "I think you've earned the right to relax and let your son handle the boring parts." I did not argue. I just said, "I'll think about it." He left a bit later, still talking about protecting my legacy, still pushing power of attorney like it was a timeshare. The next day Denise came over with Greg. She did not ask how I was. She walked in like a manager stepping onto a shop floor she already owned. Greg came behind her, hands in his pockets, jaw moving with his gum. "Dad," Denise said briskly, kissing the air near my cheek, "we don't have long. Greg's got a call at 3. Nice to see you too, I thought. Then she saw the doll's head. Her hand went to her mouth. She moved closer, eyes locked on it. Her fingers trembled when she touched the plastic hair. Is that? Her voice faded. Is that from Kayla's old doll? The cold that ran through me then was different from the night before. Kayla, 10 years old, is her daughter. 3 Christmases ago I bought her a doll with blonde hair and a pink dress. She named it Bella and carried it everywhere for months. I hadn't thought of that doll in a long time, but now that Denise mentioned it I recognized the painted mouth, the heart-shaped face. I don't know, I said, watching her. You tell me. She turned it over, hunting for a manufacturer's mark. I saw the exact moment recognition hit her. Her pupils widened, her jaw clenched. She set the head down quickly, as if it had burned her fingers. We've thrown toys out before, she said, forcing a laugh. Kids, move on. Someone must have gone through our trash. Right, Greg? Greg shrugged. Yeah, trash pickers. People do weird stuff. He smirked as he said it. Denise cleared her throat, then pivoted. Dad, about Monday. Mark called. He's worried, and so am I. I deal with benefits and policies every day at work. You really shouldn't sign anything without one of us there. I've lived a long time signing my own name, I said. We know that, she replied, voice tight. But you're older now. There are cognitive assessments for a reason. We just want to be sure everything you do sticks. Greg and I were talking. If you put the rentals into an LLC with me as manager, it reduces taxes and makes things simpler if something happens to you. We should do that before we deal with the will. It's safer. If something happens to me, I repeated. Her eyes flickered. Well, yes. We have to think about that. We're not young anymore either, Dad. I remembered the doll on my porch, the cut camera wire, the blonde head that looked a lot like the gift I'd handed her daughter with a bow on it. I told her I'd think about it. Again. Tom came that evening without being asked. He had heard from Mark that something weird had happened. He hugged me when he walked in, hard and solid. You okay, Dad? He asked. I showed him the doll, the broken cable, the note. His jaw tightened. This isn't kids, he said. Kids throw eggs. They don't know where to cut a wire so a camera dies. He walked the perimeter of the house, tracing the cable's route, then came back in shaking his head. They knew where to go and what to do, he said. Somebody's been watching this place long enough to figure it out. You know anyone who'd want to scare me? I asked. He rubbed his temples. I know people who want your money, he said. But scare you like this? No, that's sick. Which side are you on? I asked quietly. He looked up quickly. I've asked for help. I've made bad calls. I've been late on payments, he said. But I would never try to scare you into signing something. I'd rather lose my shop than lose you. I believed him. Ashley came the next day with a casserole and her 2 kids hanging off her arms. Dad, why didn't you call me? She scolded as soon as she saw the doll's head. Her son, Nick, peered around her. Whoa, cool, creepy doll. It's not cool, she said sharply. Go to the living room. Take your sister. Put on a movie. Now. When they were gone, she turned back to me with tears in her eyes. This is twisted, she said. What did the police say? That maybe I should ignore it, I said. That it's probably kids. You don't believe that, she said. No. She sat down at the table. Is this about the will? She asked. Mark's been obsessing about it. He called me twice this week. Denise, too. They're acting like you're some kind of walking bank. Have you thought about what happens when I'm gone? I asked. I try not to, she said. I think about whether you're eating enough and whether your smoke detectors have batteries. I don't have a spreadsheet with your death date highlighted. She reached across the table for my hand. If you're scared, stay with us a few days. Or let Ethan put in a security system. You don't have to go through this alone. I am not leaving my house because someone left a toy on my porch, I said. Then let us help you protect it, she replied. That night I lay in bed staring at the doll's head on my dresser. The mask of cheap cheer, the hollow neck, the black words on the tape. Time is up. By Sunday, my nerves were frayed. Sunday is family dinner at my house. Always has been. Linda insisted on it when the kids were small, and I kept it going after she died. Part of me wanted to cancel. The other part wanted every one of them under my roof where I could study their faces. I chose the second part. I made pot roast and mashed potatoes the way Linda used to. By late afternoon, cars filled my driveway. Kids exploded into the house with the usual noise. Adults followed with store-bought pies and forced smiles. I put the doll's head on the mantel in the living room, not hidden, right there where anyone sitting on the couch would see it. Mark walked past and pretended not to notice. Denise looked once and then never looked again, which in my experience means she saw it too clearly. Greg's mouth twitched into a smirk every time he walked by. Tom frowned openly at it. Ashley shot me a look that said, "Do you have to?" "Yes," I told her quietly when we were alone in the kitchen. "I do." Dinner looked normal if you only glanced. Kids argued about cartoons. Adults traded work stories. The smell of roast beef filled the house. But underneath the small talk, I could feel the tension like a live wire. Mark brought up independent living communities 3 times. "You'd love it, Dad," he said. "No yard work, no stairs, on-site doctors, and the best part? Some of them have buy-in options that make passing things on seamless. No probate drama." Denise asked whether I'd had a recent cognitive evaluation. Ashley nearly choked on her water. "It's standard with seniors I deal with at work," Denise said quickly. "If there's any question about capacity when they sign something, it can be challenged later. We want to protect you." Tom didn't talk much. He watched. He filled my glass without being asked. After dessert, when the kids went to the den with a movie, I stood up. "Tom, help me with the coffee," I said. In the kitchen, while he rinsed plates, I spoke low. "Keep them here a bit," I said. 30 minutes at least. I have a call to make." He nodded slowly. "Everything okay?" "Ask me when I'm done," I said. I went to my bedroom and closed the door. I could hear muffled voices through the wall. I dialed Henry Collins. He answered on the second ring. "Robert, everything all right?" "Someone left a headless doll under my door," I said, "and I think 2 of my children are trying to scare me into signing away my life." I told him about the doll, the cut cable, Denise's reaction, Mark's push for power of attorney. I left out nothing. He listened quietly. When I finished, he exhaled slowly. "Robert," he said, "I've done estate planning for 35 years. Greed makes people act strange, but this is beyond strange. This is intimidation, potentially criminal." "What can I do?" I asked. "We finalize your will," he said. "We make it as strong as possible. We build guardrails, and we start documenting. If anyone is trying to pressure you, that is elder abuse. You are not helpless here." "Can I record them?" I asked. "You're in Ohio," he said. "One-party consent. As long as you are part of the conversation, you can legally record it. Invite them over. Let them talk. Bring me the recordings. Do not confront them yet, no matter what they say." I promised him I wouldn't. When I opened my bedroom door again, my granddaughter Kayla was standing in the hallway. Her hands were twisted together. "Grandpa?" she whispered. "Hey, honey," I said, trying to sound light. "Hiding from your cousins?" "Can I talk to you?" she asked. "In your room? Alone?" The fear in her eyes made my stomach drop. We went back into the room and I shut the door. Her gaze went straight to the doll's head on my dresser. "That's Bella's head," she said. Her voice shook. "My Bella." I nodded slowly. "I thought it might be," I said. "Do you know what happened to her?" Tears filled her eyes. She blinked them back hard. "I heard Mom and Greg in the garage on Friday," she said in a rush. "They thought I was at Mia's house, but I came back because I forgot my jacket. They were by the trash cans. Bella was in a bag. Mom said, 'Cutting up her doll is too much.' And Greg laughed and said, 'He won't know it's her doll. He'll just get the message.'" My hands clenched. "What else did they say?" I asked quietly. She swallowed. "Mom said, 'What if he has a heart attack?' And Greg said, 'Then we get the house sooner.' And Mom said, 'I just wanted to scare him into signing things faster, not kill him.' And Greg said—" She stopped, lips trembling. "It's okay," I said gently. "Tell me." He said, "Either way, problem solved." The room spun for a moment. "Did they see you?" I asked. She shook her head. "No, I was by the bikes. They were yelling. I don't think they looked." I took a slow breath. "Why are you telling me this, Kayla?" She looked at me through tears. "Because Mom said if you don't sign the papers soon, they're gonna have to make a case that you can't live alone. She said Greg knows a doctor who can say you forget things and see stuff that's not there." She sniffed. "I don't want you to go to a home," she whispered. "Mrs. Patterson's grandma is in one and she cries all the time. I don't want you to die either." "I'm scared, Grandpa." I pulled her into my arms. Her small body shook against mine. "You did the right thing telling me," I said. "You are very brave. None of this is your fault." "Are you mad at Mom?" she asked, muffled against my chest. Oh, I was something worse than mad. "I'm sad," I said. "Sad she made a very bad choice, and I'm going to make sure that choice doesn't hurt you or me. But you have to pretend you never told me anything. Just for now. Can you do that?" She nodded, face still pressed to my shirt. "I love you," I said. "I love you too, Grandpa," she whispered. After she went back to the living room, laughing too loudly at the movie, I sat on the edge of my bed staring at the doll's head. The pieces clicked into place. Denise and Greg had cut up their own daughter's doll and staged it under my door to scare me into signing my assets over faster. They were willing to risk my health, my sanity, my security to move up their payday. My daughter. When you raise a child, you walk the floor with them at 3 a.m., wipe fevers from their forehead, cheer for them when they take their first step. You never imagine that same child might one day look at your fear and see only an advantage. I drove to Henry's office first thing Monday morning. The doll's head rode in a clear plastic bag on the passenger seat. Henry was waiting in his conference room. Gray suit, glasses at the tip of his nose, legal pad ready. "What happened?" he asked as soon as he saw my face. I put the bag on the table. "She used her own child's toy," I said, "and I have a witness." I told him about Kayla, about the conversation in the garage, about Greg's words. Either way, problem solved. He listened, jaw tightening. "This is ugly," he said when I finished. "But it gives us leverage. We finalize your will today, and we do it in a way that protects you and the grandchildren. Then we document everything we can." We worked for hours. We rewrote the will from top to bottom. We put the rental properties and investment accounts into a trust for the grandchildren. Each grandchild would have a share. They could not take the money out to buy cars or vacations. They could use it for school, health, or a first home. We gave Ashley and Tom the bulk of what remained, including the house, jointly. I retained a life estate, meaning they could not sell or evict me while I was alive. Mark received a modest cash amount, enough to acknowledge him, not enough to fund a lifestyle. Denise received $1. Next to that line, at my insistence, Henry wrote, "For reasons my executor is fully aware of." We named a professional executor from Henry's firm. Ashley would serve as co-executor to handle personal decisions, but no one child could control everything. When it was done, Henry tapped the folder. Legally sound, he said. Hard to challenge, especially if we can show pressure and intimidation. Now we need proof. I told him my plan. The next night I called Denise. Dad, she answered. We're about to sit down for dinner. I won't keep you, I said. I've been thinking about what you and Mark said. You might be right about some things. Can you and Greg come by tomorrow evening? I want your opinion before I sign anything. She hesitated only a second. We'll be there, she said. When they arrived, I had already turned on the voice recorder on my phone and tucked it in my shirt pocket. The doll's head sat on the coffee table, staring up at us. We sat in the living room. I let the silence stretch before I started. I realized maybe I was being stubborn, I said. I don't want chaos after I'm gone, so I have an idea. Denise leaned forward. Greg watched me like a man about to close a deal. I could move the rentals into an LLC now, I said. Maybe even this house. Put you as manager. That way you handle everything day to day while I'm still alive. Then my will just says everything divides equally when I die. Simple. Greg grinned. Now that's smart planning, he said. Denise nodded, already imagining the spreadsheets. We can structure it so you still feel in control, she said. But yes, with me as manager, I'd pay taxes, deal with tenants, make sure you have what you need. And if I change my mind, I asked mildly. If I decide I don't want you as manager anymore? Greg shrugged. That's the point of locking it in, he said. So if you're confused or not yourself later, no one can swoop in and take advantage. Once it's done, it's done. Confused? I said. Like seeing threats that aren't there? He chuckled. Exactly. You got all worked up over a cut-up toy. That's not great, optics-wise. Denise winced. Greg, she hissed. What? He said. He needs to hear it. Courts care about those things. If we have to go that route... That route? I asked softly. What route? The protective route, he said. If you refuse help, and you're obviously not safe alone, someone has to step in legally. Guardianship, conservatorship, whatever. We're not trying to hurt you, Robert. We're trying to make sure everything you built doesn't go to waste because you're scared of signing a few papers. And the doll? I asked. That was part of helping me? Greg rolled his eyes. That was a stupid joke, he said. But it woke you up, didn't it? Denise's face crumpled. We were desperate, she muttered. You keep saying you're fine, but your heart... What if you drop dead tomorrow? We'd have to untangle all of this with no plan. I panicked. So you cut up your daughter's doll, I said, and left it under my door with a threat, hoping I'd be scared enough to hand you everything. She flinched. Greg started to protest. I raised a hand. You don't have to answer, I said. You already did. I thanked them for their advice and told them I'd let them know after my meeting with Henry. They left frustrated, Greg muttering about stubborn old fools as he pulled her toward the car. My phone had every word. 2 days later, I asked all 4 of my children to join me at Henry's office. I want transparency, I told them. I don't want any of you to hear about it secondhand when I'm gone. They all came. Henry's conference room held a long, dark table, leather chairs, and degrees on the wall. I sat at the head. My children sat on either side, like a board of directors facing a CEO they didn't know how to read. Henry explained that he'd walk us through the basic structure of my will. He handed each of them a summary, not the full document, but enough to show the main decisions. Mark flipped through and frowned. Wait, he said. The house goes to Ashley and Tom? Jointly after your father's passing, Henry said. He keeps a life estate. And the rentals? Denise asked, voice clipped. Those fund a trust for the grandchildren, Henry said. All 8 of them will share in it. Mark skimmed further. And I get a modest cash bequest, he read. Henry nodded. Correct. Denise's eyes scanned her page. Suddenly her face drained of color. $1? She whispered. Yes, Henry said. Your father has made a nominal bequest to you. That makes it clear you were not accidentally omitted. It is a common way to reduce the likelihood of a successful challenge. She stared at me like she didn't recognize me. This is because of the doll, she said. It's because of what the doll revealed, I answered. Greg slammed his hand on the table. This is illegal, he snapped. You can't cut your own daughter out because she pushed you to get your affairs in order. You're not thinking straight. Ashley turned on him like a storm. Pushed? She said. You terrorized him. You cut up Kayla's doll and left it like a death threat. You talked about having him declared incompetent. We heard you. Tom looked at Denise horrified. Tell me that's not true, he said. Denise opened her mouth, closed it. I took my phone out, opened the recording, and pressed play. Greg's voice filled the room. If we have to go that route, guardianship, conservatorship, whatever. Then Denise. We were desperate. What if you drop dead tomorrow? Then Greg again, the words I'd waited to hear in front of witnesses. Either way, problem solved. When the recording ended, nobody spoke for a few seconds. Mark looked stunned. You were going to drag him into court? He said to Denise. To get control? Over a will? Don't act innocent, she snapped. You tried to get power of attorney. That's not the same as scaring him to death, he said. Enough, Henry said sharply. This room is not a courtroom. Mr. Hayes does not need to justify his decisions here, but I advised him to share his reasoning so there would be no secrets later. I stood. The movement hurt my knees, but I wanted to look them in the eye. I worked my whole life with live wires, I said. I crawled into crawl spaces and up onto roofs so you kids could have shoes without holes. Your mother and I ate beans and rice so we could help with tuition. We went without vacations so you could have braces and prom dresses. I looked at Mark. When your first deal went sour, I said, I helped with the down payment you lost. I never asked for that money back. I forgave it because you were my son, not my investment. But you walked into my house this week and the first thing you worried about was whether I'd give you power over my bank accounts. His eyes dropped. I looked at Denise. I wrote checks when Greg had debts he wouldn't talk about, I said. I watched you cry on my couch and I chose to help instead of saying, this is what you picked. But when it was your turn to worry about me, you responded by trying to scare me into signing away my life's work. Tears streamed down her face. She shook her head, but she didn't deny it. I looked at Tom. You've made mistakes, I said. You've come to me more than once asking for a loan, but you always brought a plan and a spreadsheet. When I said no, you accepted it. You never tried to twist my arm by pretending to know what's best for my mind. Tom's eyes shone. I looked at Ashley. You never once asked, what will I get when you're gone? I said. You just ask what I need now. That's what you get. Not the biggest share, but my trust. I sat down slowly. I am not punishing anyone, I said. I am protecting myself and your children. None of you is entitled to anything. Anything you get is something I earned with my back and my hands. I choose who holds it when I cannot. That is my right. I paused, then added, and if anyone tries again to have me declared incompetent for their financial advantage, I will not keep it in the family. I will go to the police. I will bring them the recordings. I will testify. As if on cue, there was a knock at the conference room door. Henry called, Come in. 2 uniformed officers stepped inside. Gregory Allen Porter? One of them asked. Greg stiffened. Yeah? You're under arrest for making terroristic threats and conspiracy to commit fraud against a protected senior, the officer said. You have the right to remain silent, Denise gasped. You can't do this, she cried, turning to me. Dad, stop them. Tell them you changed your mind. I did not look away. I didn't do this, I said calmly. You did, when you decided my fear was a tool for you to use. Greg tried to pull his arms away as they cuffed him. This old man is confused, he said. He doesn't know what he's doing. Henry spoke up. Mr. Hayes is fully aware, he said. He came to us days ago with his recordings and his granddaughter's statement. The prosecutor's office reviewed the evidence. They led Greg out. The door closed behind them. Denise sat frozen, eyes wide and vacant. Then she stood up so fast her chair fell over. I hope you're satisfied, she said, voice hoarse. You just ruined my life. No, I said quietly. I stopped you from ruining mine. She stared at me like she was seeing a stranger. Then she grabbed her purse and followed the officers down the hall. Mark left next, mumbling something about needing time to process. Tom stayed. Ashley stayed. Tom put his hand on my shoulder. I'm so sorry, Dad, he said. Ashley leaned over and hugged me hard. You didn't deserve any of this, she whispered. Maybe I did, I said. Maybe I did for ignoring the warning signs this long, but it ends now. The days that followed felt unreal. Word spread through the extended family. Some relatives said I was brave. Some called me cruel. A couple suggested that these things should stay in the family. None of them had found a doll head under their door. I changed my locks. Tom and Ethan installed a new system with hidden cameras and motion sensors. Ashley insisted on writing down my passwords and storing them in a sealed envelope at Henry's office, so no one could accidentally reset my accounts. Kayla came over one Saturday with a brand new blonde doll in her hands. This one stays here, she said shyly. So your house doesn't feel scary anymore. We went into the backyard. I dug a small hole under Linda's rosebush, the one she had planted the year we bought the house. The blooms were still stubborn every summer, even as the rest of the yard faded. I took the old doll's head out of the plastic bag one last time and looked at its painted blue eyes. You had your moment, I said softly. Now you can rest. I buried it there under the roses. Time did not suddenly become safe again after that, but it stopped feeling like it belonged to my children. It went back to belonging to me. Now my will is signed. My lawyer has the original. My executor knows the story. The police have the recordings. My grandchildren have a future that does not depend on who can manipulate their grandfather the best. And I'm still here in my chair, in my house, drinking my coffee while the maple scrapes the siding. Someone thought an old man with a weak heart would see a cut-off doll's head and crumble. Instead, it woke up the part of me that remembers every long day on a ladder, every live wire I handled without flinching, every time I stood between my kids and a danger they could not see. So now I am asking you, was I wrong to strip my own daughter's inheritance down to a single dollar and let her husband be led away in handcuffs? Or was this the only way left for a 72-year-old grandfather to protect himself and the innocent children who still look at him with trust from the people who were supposed to love him most?
My grandpa's words really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales like this, hit subscribe.